Sue Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody from Talk Cosmos here in Hawaii. We just managed the storm fine in our particular spot. Blessings to all others. And it is today that going towards the end of August on the 26th of August. And we are doing the moon power for the lunar phases for September coming up. Next week will be the new moon. So this is a wonderful overview going into many phases of the lunar powers that really control our dynamics. You know, the moon and the sun control the tides, and we're made up of the same percentage as Earth. That's about 75% liquid compared to matter. What you see is not always what you get. But here in this world, we're talking metaphysically, and we are now ready for archetypal. No, we're not. That's next week. We're ready for Kaleidoscope Visions.
Understanding the cosmic energies influencing our consciousness by the 4 major moon phases for the month, this is your Kaleidoscope Visions Panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
And I'm John Chinworth, a Seattle astrologer with more than 25 years experience. I use a blend of evolutionary, traditional, and archetypal techniques and constantly attend workshops and lectures to further hone my skills. I hold an MFA in poetics, an MA in teaching, and an astrological diploma. I've lectured at NORWAC and served on the WSAA board. I have worked in general and special education classrooms, both as a teacher and mentor. I also enjoy reading, penning poems, riding a bike, and going on road trips around the great state of Washington.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Hi, John. This is great. I'm so glad.
Hi.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yes, indeed. And amazingly, last month you were unable to attend. You had things happening. And today Amanda's missing. However, both of you will be back, I know. And it's just a treat. So here we are. It's the 25th of August, and we'll give a little bit of review. We did touched on this last month, but we have shifted. After 2 years of doing transit readings, we are now looking at the moon. It's transmitting its energy to us. And thank you to all those volunteers. And I will reach out to those that were coming up to let you know in particular how much we appreciated your participation. And instead, as I've said, we're doing moon power through the phases. There's 4 major ones. And that illuminates that storyline because overall, it's a new moon theory, or not theory, what would you call it? Platform, a story, right? Yeah.
Kind of starts with the new moon. Actually, yes. A story does.
That's right. And we must remember that the moon is our closest body to Earth. There's ideas that it came from Earth and coagulated and formed. It used to be very close, and eventually in billions of years, it's going to be far away, but it's a perfect distance right now. And it tracks the seasons. It tells us so much. It's personal. It's our personal planet.
And also, given where we are and where the moon is right now, how it's moved to where it is from its distance from the Earth, it's the same size as the disk of the sun. So it's of equal importance, we astrologers say, to the sun.
It is remarkable. There's that magic number 108, which if a person looks into has, et cetera, et cetera. It's very fantastic. So it's like a clock And it anticipates the seasons for animals too, nature and humanity to survive and thrive. That's always the mantra that we want. And it within 29 and a half days every week, it systematically goes through all 12 signs, meaning that it aspects our chart in a remarkable way. There is such a technique as transference of light. There's many wonderful ways to look at the moon, besides secondary progressions and et cetera, as people get more involved in their
We talk
astrology.
about like void of course when the moon
Yeah.
makes its last aspect before it goes into a new sign. There's
Which
like lots of little details about astrology based on the moon. There's just like so much information.
However, with that, I've had it written down that it was, where is it? I don't have it now at my fingertips, but void of course, according to the very ancient times, was actually pretty rare, but we don't use it that way. I always have to throw that in. It was like a monkey wrench. They are luminaries. The moon, though, reflects. It doesn't have its own light, and we only see one side. The other side is the mystery is so deep, and the sun emits it. It's a star. It's our galaxy star. It's hydrogen, but through that fusion, it makes helium. Here we go.
There's the dance.
Four. Yes. Thank you. And this graphic you will see again, but this goes from the new moon when you can't see it to the quarter full and quarter again. So we'll start off with the new moon. John, you want to say something?
Well, the new moon is like planting a seed. It happens when the sun and the moon are together in the sky. You'll see that. Well, you won't see it because it's blacked out, and it'll be at early morning or something like that. And it's when you see the fingernail of a moon just start to form. That's the new phase. And this is about having a new idea. This is about what can I start? What can I begin? Commencing. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And those seeds come from the last moon when
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it will be September 2nd. We'll go over this again. It's going to be 11 degrees in Virgo, and Mercury, of course, rules that.
Busy moon.
In the first quarter, half is lit, and it's called a crisis in action because they are square each other, and squares are always action. But this is a crisis in action, and it's waxing. That means increasing. So that'll be 9/11, September 11th, in Sagittarius. And it depends on which hemisphere that you are in, just to be aware of which half is lit. And the full moon, that's going to be our eclipse this month, actually, because it's so close to the lunar nodes.
That's when the sun and the moon are opposite each other. So the disk of the moon is getting the full light of the sun, and you see the gigantic moon come up. And we give it names like harvest moon or pink moon or
yes.
So on.
It'll be September 17th at 25 degrees Pisces. And of course, it'll have two rulers because traditionally it is Jupiter. However, for we modern astrologers, we definitely look at Neptune. Now, just to let people know that, now did I goof that up? Because this is the third quarter. But okay, the moon phases at the equator are different. So the half moon is going to be either above a pi or below, depending. So this is not an education. This is only awareness to bring to your attention that what we think in one spot is going to be a little different somewhere else, that our experience changes. Because the third quarter is crisis. Again, a crisis. It's action. Square. They are square each other with the sun. The opposite side is lit, but it's a crisis in consciousness, because now we've had that whole evolution of a seed that's come into its manifestation, and we're looking at, did it work or not, and more action, and now it's beginning.
What have I learned? What can I share? Kind of feel to it.
Yes, a gestation period, which actually is the phase that we're approaching now, and we'll get into that just very shortly. Archetypally, the moon, it is our personal planet. It's our emotions and habits. It's the past. It reflects light. And it processes all those cycles. Is a series of how we process information. It's not abracadabra. It's timing, but over like a cycle. Okay,
I
and it
think the moon
rules.
also, it kind of comes from the gut. It's what you feel in your gut, what you feel like you need to do. Astrologer Noel Till, he talked about the reigning need of the person by the moon, like
I
what the
like
soul needs to achieve.
I like that. I put
Yeah,
down needs, and it's really true. There are needs, not just wants, but needs. And on the flip
almost like in
side,
a
people,
survival kind of mode. This is what
it,
I need. Sorry, right?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And safety is a big element of that. It, a person on the flip side cannot seem needy, yet it depends on how we approach that, because our needs are absolutely paramount to us. And that's one of the gifts, is to figuring out
yeah.
how we can support ourselves. Here are the phases. We are going to begin with the Leo new moon third quarter, which is a gestation time, because the moon keeps shifting. It's not our calendar date. It's 29, 28 days. And so therefore, this is going to happen on the 26th, which is 2 days from now. And it'll still be in Gemini. So we have this mutable time of gestation, which we will get into. And then we will do the Virgo new moon 4 phase cycle. And again, it starts off with Leo. Why did I put Leo? It should be Virgo. Darn boo hiss. Well, you can see it is Virgo. It's still
That's right.
retrograde. Mercury is retrograde. What can I say? Okay.
Virgo's very mad about that.
Yeah. It's like laughing at me. See, perfection doesn't exist. My Virgo goes, yes, I can do it. Oh, man. And what I noticed here is that the third quarter that's leaving the old system, going into the new, that gestation, takes on the modality of the upcoming moon. So here we're in a mutable Gemini, again, ruled by Mercury, whereas when we get to the last third quarter for the Virgo, it's going to be in Cancer, which is cardinal, just like the Libra, which is kind of energetically interesting. There's many aspects. However, Ptolemy's basic ones, we are emphasizing the hard versus the soft. Hard is action. Soft is flowing, connecting. Hard are squares and sesquiquadrates. Sesquiquadrates is a combination of a square and a half square. So it's 135 degrees.
Kind of like work and rest. Work on these, and now it's time to rest and do some work. And birth charts have various combinations of those.
Ceres, there's a couple of highlights that go on. Ceres is a dwarf planet. Actually, Alan Clay calls it the higher octave of the moon. They're both nurturing, which is fascinating. And I did one with Liz Machette, and I did a show on her channel, which there'll be a link to if you want to get a little bit more information about that. But it's a big action, and it's out of bounds. It's working on its own direction archetypally. It involves women. It has nurturing grief, foods. It's really very strong. And that's from April 2nd all the way to January 15th next year. And of course, Mercury will go direct in just a few days. And we're in that shadow path. We get that third chance to say, okay, this is my thoughts and how I'm preparing them up until September 12th. Shall we begin with the third quarter? We're just entering that as of the 26th.
Right.
Yeah, the moon's in Gemini.
Well, that big old T-square just popped out. Ceres and a T-square to the nodes. To me, in cardinal sign, so taking action.
While we're still in Mercury retrograde, because it's so true. And Pluto is still in Aquarius. Look at the Democratic and the Republican conventions. I know you were on both panels with that. We have that new panel. And the women, if Ceres is also about how we're nurturing, it seems as though there's a lot of emphasis with the Democratic Party.
Women being tired of being caught in the crosshairs of all this policy. And here you have Ceres and this T-square. Like, what are you doing to us? Right? That's what I see. And so the women have been empowered to speak up and say, well, enough. Right?
Yeah. And there's action between Mars itself a lot, which was
Yeah.
big actions. I mean, there's a lot behind the scenes that are still really working to get ahead. Neptune is in this kite here where it's not that far from where we're directing, but Neptune doesn't work so linear. So all of this is really mobilizing.
Neptune's like be like a dream. This is the dream, people. I always look at the grand trine. It's a grand trine. A kite is a grand trine, 3 planets in a triangle, and then the one going out makes it a kite. So the grand trine is the energy. What element is it in? It looks like it is in, I can't see what that is.
Well, it's
air.
water. No, it's in Neptune, of course, is in water, but the trine is in Earth. It's an Earth trine. So it's actually pretty productive. Earth and water get along.
So like being in this pattern for a long time, and this earthy pattern kind of stuck maybe even, and Neptune is saying, well, here's the dream. Let's soften
no,
this
you're
up
right,
a
though.
bit.
Pardon me. It is air. Yes, indeed. It is tricky to see that because there's various trines going on.
There are.
And they're at a distance. So one makes it with another. So it is air. It's just like here.
We could even go air, Earth trine because all those planets are so close.
There's a lot of communication, emotionally trying to work things through and then making a foundation. Like, what's the matter of it? Well, ahead of that, we will begin our Virgo new moon on September 2nd in Virgo at 11 degrees. It happens to be at 9:55 p.m. Eastern time. Just looking at the action squares here, there's again that ever-loving T-square with Ceres of nurturing with the nodes of relationships. So we're really trying to figure out what relationships are going to last and which ones do we need to mend or redo. Mars, though, is pretty pivotal because Mars is, if we're going to go ahead with our relationships of autonomy and fix how we relate to our relationships with others, it is in an action square with
It's getting to
Neptune.
that square. Oh, with Neptune, yeah. That like the missing leg of that T-square is down there in Gemini. So gathering information, having a radically open mind, right, is a way to work through that to get it to move a little bit.
Absolutely, because it does look like if it's in conjunct, that means a quincunx 150, which is trying always to adjust to Pluto. Pluto is transforming. So we're trying to transform what is real, what is possible, how to function. It's back to the moon. It's a big process.
I think it's interesting to have, like, we call Pluto the higher octave of Mars, and here they are in this relationship. We don't know how to be together. We don't know how to work together. So this is weird.
Yeah, and they both transform. I know I looked at that one time with, I think, maybe Kaleidoscope Visions or one of the panels, but Mars goes through actions and that transforms things, and Pluto is really like the why, the deeper, like it's my relationship with you, our resources really being productive or not, and they'll shed things, whereas Mars just cuts it right off too. So they both are transforming in their own manner. But here in thoughts, yes, Mercury really wants to communicate these ideas. Well, we'll see what happens. There is also
This is the same charge, soft aspects, correct?
Yes. So how is that supporting it?
Well, there's Chiron and Mercury.
Yes, the healing. Healing and nurturing. Yes, it really is. And
healing communication, healing words. Think about what you say, how you say it. Think about your audience.
And realize that we are connected. I think that Saturn in Pisces is again and again, wherever it's being aspected, like it is if that square with Mars is, well, with Jupiter, really. Jupiter and Saturn are still kind of in a square of tension. The first square since their conjunction back in 2020. So that's another overview of kind of the next level that we're working with. And it's realizing that we're a community, Aquarius, which it was a conjunction in, and Pluto is still in Aquarius, looks at life as not a one act show. You know, we're all contributing to our actions. And
These three outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, are in that mini trine. They're working together, which is kind of a rare setup.
it is.
They're kind of a beautiful sky thing going on. So like the dreams and having being the genius, accepting sudden radical change and deep transformation all together. And like in concert saying, we're going to work together to hopefully create something new or a new way of thinking about things.
That also is important. What you're saying exactly adds to the fact of what they call a point of Thales. And point of Thales, he was a famous mathematician back a few thousand years ago. And it's a constructive point, but it is where one planet, which happens to be Pluto up there at the top in near the MC, very close in the 10th house. And this is the Eastern time, thinking of us as a nation. That's why we choose it. But it's sextile, which happens to be to Neptune, which is in that mini T-square that we were talking. And it's also trine Venus, which is right next to the South Node, and which has an opposition. And that's a very constructive energy consciousness, meaning that we're really trying to figure out what values to embrace. You know, Venus, how does it relate to our relationships? What to let go of that aren't supporting those relationships, because it's in Libra.
One thing I also noticed about this chart, we've got Pluto and Neptune at 29 degrees. So they're critical, that they're into their signs saying, might be time to get this one right. Like, let's work on this. This is our last chance to do this because I won't be in these signs for a very long time. And even Uranus is getting to the end of its, getting through Taurus.
Yes, indeed. I wonder if we should go back to this one here to just see now, because this has pretty much all of them combined. And of course, I just highlighted the fact that it's Ceres up here with that little question mark that's in that really strong T-square, toggling between
support and action together.
Yes. And then, of course, just the dynamics, meaning that if it's in Virgo, we really want to perfect things. That's just like me thinking, oh dear, I had something wrong. But isn't it often said that perfection is imperfection? I guess that was a Cancerian viewpoint saying, hey, it's a process. But still, we try to, it's like it's an axis of 6th house and 12th house. 6th house is fixing things, trying to look at, because if it doesn't, nature's going to take over and the house will fall down, all kinds of things. But in 6th house, we develop our skills, we get a routine going,
right?
We get our health. There's many aspects.
And in the 12th house, it's seeing the big picture, letting go a little bit, let go, let God kind of stuff. So a Virgo, a perfectionist, how about just do the best that you can do? And with Venus, they're saying, do it with love. Be gentle on yourself.
Yes.
You know?
Well, you know what we're going to do, John, is we're going to skip ahead and do, and then we'll come back. Yes, we are. We're going to go to, if I can find it. Well, that's how it goes, because otherwise we might just take a little break. Let's take a little break right now, and then we'll come back. That'll give us more time for that lunar eclipse that we're just anxious to talk about, because here we have the setup with the new moon. Meanwhile, we have a quarter moon that's going to be embracing that growth, that seed, and then that full moon in Pisces that happens to be an eclipse that totally resets the stage. And in Pisces, it's the antithesis. It was the polarity of Virgo, which we know. We want to talk about that. So we'll be right back. Thank you, everybody. This is Kaleidoscope Visions with John Chinworth and myself, and it's August 25th. I think. Are we missing Nathan? It looks like we are. Well, that's again, Mercury saying, you know what? It's not like you think it is. Okay, well, we'll shift gears again. This is the process of life. Here we have John Chinworth, you can get a hold of at astropath.com, and myself at Talk Cosmos, and his Archer Stars at Gmail or info@talkcosmos.com.
So go back,
Mhm.
use the email there, but that's not my website. I'm skypathastro.com.
Oh no, Skypath dot. Oh dear,
Skypathastro.com.
Okay.
The words got mixed
Ah,
up. But Archer Stars at
thank
Gmail
you.
is great.
Okay. Just to remind people, we have a brand new panel that's U.S. Global Currents, but the series is about the elections because we are in this dynamic time of a Chiron return for the United States. And we did the Democratic Convention, which is really a fascinating review of the candidates in the United States. And so you can find that on Talk Cosmos. And we're doing the lunar phases, and then next week will be the new moon, really focused. And then after that will be Planet Buzz, really focusing on the lunar eclipse. So this month has a whole theme of itself. And thank you, everybody, for signing up for our newsletter. You can easily do that on the website, and of course, following us on YouTube. And there's a little GR code up there if that makes it simpler for you. We're going to come back with this first quarter now that will be that crisis in action. And we'll be right back with John Chinworth and myself. We'll try this again. Nate, sign us off.
I don't know if he's there.
I wonder what happened to Nate. Well, we'll just keep rolling. Okay. We've got material. If they have announcements that sometimes they give. Oh boy.
Mercury retrograde. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh boy, have I been experiencing it. Have you too?
A little bit.
Oh, I'm ruled by Mercury, so it really ends up affecting me. Yep. Well, it's a crisis in action, which happens because it is the two luminaries are square. The moon is in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. And that's at 19 degrees. And it's actually opposing its ruler. Isn't that fascinating? So it's that awareness. And
Indeed.
it's with making a T-square. Oh, Nate. Okay, we're ready. We will come back. We've been trying to get off the scene, and I guess you're ready too. So we'll come back with this. Process continues. It's moon. Thank you, John.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Virgo. By leaving a cycle based on the creative manifested legacy of our highest creative form, the energy of Virgo completes the last sign below the horizon of the self and requires discernment to perfect oneself through the mental process of critical analysis. As a mutable earth sign duly ruled by Mercury, Virgo refines, heals, or fixes through daily routines, developing skills and services to control nature's chaos and maximize efficiency.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, September 1st, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and find out about the animals at animals24-7.org with Beth and Merritt Clifton. We'll also talk with Ananda about upcoming events. Hope you can join us, Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here in Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Going against the grain has never been this much fun. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hey, now's the time. And that is everything about Cancer and the moon, actually, isn't it? Because when one works and works, but when the time is ripe, that flower opens. We're talking about the Virgo new moon and the 4 major lunar cycles. And so this is the first quarter. It's a crisis in action. It's on September 11th, 2024 at 2:05 a.m. Eastern Time. And as we've been discussing, there is that grand square actually with nurturing Ceres. Yeah, which we brought up.
This chart just screams, get busy. You got to get to work. If it isn't like sit down.
Beautiful. I like this.
Right?
Yes. Saturn saying, well, what's nitty gritty? Let's get down to basics.
Right.
And yes, you have these emotional needs, but let's really make them work for us, okay? With these big ideas that we have. Beautiful. Well, following that is going to be the eclipse. And what's so important is to realize that the eclipse season, that energy is so strong that it starts 2 weeks ahead. So it's actually starting with the Virgo new moon, and it's going to last for the next month, because following that is going to be 2 weeks afterwards too.
Are these the soft aspects to that first quarter moon?
It is. Well, let me see. Is it or is it not? Yeah, somehow it is. Okay, do you want to do this one first? This is the same one. It's a lunar eclipse. It's illuminate, release, and reset. And it's going to be at 25 degrees, 40 minutes of Pisces on the 17th of September. Oh, thank you very much. That was the first quarter. And it's at 10 p.m. That's 10:34 p.m. It's actually with 13 seconds. Mars is out of bounds. This is a dynamic characteristic of it because it rules the North Node and Chiron. But it really only has one major feature, and that's in a grand cardinal square with the nodes, and it's opposite Ceres. It's making that long going T-square. Talk about action. I think this is what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mars and Ceres opposing each other is that's just something else. Because Mars is this forward, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and Ceres is like, "Whoa, take it easy."
Well,
you know what I mean?
It is. However, Mars in Cancer really wants safety, so I think it does go very along with the moon being in Pisces. You know, those two are listening to each other somehow just through their energetic part. It's very different than in Gemini. I read that one, especially since it's out of bounds. Out of bounds really wants safety. It doesn't just act like a Gemini that says more information, let's do this, or what about that, etc. Let's gather and then prune if we get around to it.
There's a blend of energy of Mars being in Cancer. So Cancer's saying tone it down, Mars, but then Mars is out of bounds saying I want to do what I want to do. So that in itself is kind of a struggle.
And I have these needs, so let's get attention to them. You know, I'm not fooling around. This is important. But then Ceres also in Capricorn, I think, is very supportive because Capricorn also is a cardinal. They're both timing, but it's endings and beginnings. So it may say to Mars, you have processed long enough. It is time to cut the cord, We are going on. If you're going to nurture, you've got to figure out how your nurturing is going to contribute to others. We can't just wallow in your own pain all the time. And it is a little hardcore that way, but to get, sometimes a rescue squad does that, you know,
It's paired with that kite, you know, so all the soft energies are working together as well. So maybe it's not as bad as we think.
No, I don't think so. It is a conglomeration, isn't it? And I often think with Saturn in Pisces, it has to be a conglomeration because it sees that totality, that oneness, and especially with Neptune in Pisces too, at these last degrees, that is toggling as in that sextile connection between the outer planets of sudden Uranus and transforming Pluto. But here, Pluto again is in Capricorn. So we're really going back and looking at perhaps all the 18 years or 16 years that Pluto was in. Yeah.
This is the last time Pluto will be in Capricorn for another 248 years. So
yes,
it's a whole new chapter that opens. Pluto kind of is like this chapter over, we're going to the next scene of humanity.
Right.
That's how strong it
and
is.
Mercury is quite involved. Mercury is opposing that Saturnian concentration of what's important to try to analyze and think this through.
And it's in Virgo, and
yes,
Mercury's exalted in Virgo. So I'm like, Mercury is very happy where it is.
It can do the job.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And it's also supporting in a wide flowing part to Ceres. So it's saying, look, and Hermes is the one that could go underground and was Zeus is the god, you know, communicator. So it has a good mission here.
Mercury
Nonetheless,
is the psychopomp. It's one of the best images of Mercury. People forget about that.
Mm-hmm. And we need to remember, too, that eclipses serve a purpose. They literally shut the light out and they reset the stage. And it is in Pisces. So it's looking to Neptune, it's looking to Jupiter. And Mars is also looking to the moon because it's in Cancer. And it's that. So it's this strong, integral action that's going to maybe have sudden changes because but vision too, the vision of
changes. Uranus is very well aspected, and it looks like it'd be fun and kind of like a free flowing kind of energy. Uranus is like, we can do this. This will be rather smooth flowing. Maybe if you do the work in a nurturing way.
And it's leading to other steps because, again, if we look at the whole backdrop, which there are several, it's like a big stage. Chiron, we're in that 50 at the Chiron return for the United States. 21st, and the next one's going to be right after the elections for the second one on the November 8th, and then again in February. And we're looking at our identity. We're looking at how we can heal our wound. And then Ceres is saying, well, okay, well then nurture others and do it this way. And what I'm getting at is that if I've looked at the charts, like the United States chart in 1776 was our independence chart, but we had a war from 75 until 81. That's 6 years. And all during that time, Pluto was in the very beginning degrees of Aquarius. So we're really in that same dynamic of pruning, our support.
And what do we stand for, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. And how do we fulfill that?
Exactly. Yeah.
And who are the people? Are we all involved? Well, we have now, thankfully, everybody can vote, whether or not the polls and the states are allowing it. There's still that push. Right. But yet it isn't where women couldn't vote until a certain time, or Black people couldn't vote. Actually, Black men could vote before women. So, but now people can. It's just, it's ongoing. Of course, that's a conversation that people can tune into October. We'll do more on 24.
I'd like to say one more thing about that
US
Chiron
election.
return, the US Chiron return. So Chiron has gone around however many times and it's come back to its
4 times. This is the 5th. Yeah.
oh, okay, good to know.
Hmm.
It's asking, how are we hurting and what needs to be repaired to fix the hurting? And
Yeah.
that's been a theme that's been coming a lot during this election cycle. So it's just right on target with what Chiron in Aries is saying.
Yeah, meaning that this is a step. I guess that's what I was thinking of too with people. This isn't the end all, but it is part of the evolution, evolving process that it will be important to recognize for this eclipse and restructuring things, because we have so many more techniques now. We have better communication and etc. Well, after this, we go back to what we're experiencing soon. Next week, it'll be a crisis in consciousness of the Leo energy, which is, and that, remember, folks, that's in Gemini. So we're gathering information, trying to figure it with its own dynamic part. Ceres is still a square. It's staying in that square. So we're still in that nurturing process.
Yeah.
But this one is going to be a gestation cycle before the new moon, which is going to be another eclipse. So we're in this big eclipse season. But this third quarter will be the 24th of September. So we're looking at the whole month of September after the equinox. And it's in the afternoon, East Coast time, 2 p.m., 2:49 and 37 seconds p.m. Here we have that kite. We have that T-square. We have that Thales. Go ahead.
No, just wondering what the Thales thing is again. A point of Thales.
Well, Thales, actually, it may not be here, but that's where one planet is both sextile and trine to an opposition to those two planets. So it's very constructive. It's like an action with a flow and a connective energy. And that was in Pluto. So, of course, there's a big transformation. And it was between the new moon or the full moon.
One thing I noticed about this chart, Chiron has backed down a little bit. It's only making a little sextile to Jupiter. So it's kind of quieting down a little bit compared to the other charts.
Yes, meaning we're trying to perhaps look at the big picture. We're trying to expand, bring out more information to
that
try
is the only aspect it's making.
Interesting. But connections are so strong. They really are. They're useful. And even Jupiter here. So both of them are, you're right, sitting back.
Jupiter too. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the major aspects, because we know that there's others.
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
So what have we learned at Crisis in Consciousness, right? What are we willing to share from this process that we're going through before the moon, of course, fades away and starts the next cycle?
And the moon is very powerfully set. You know, it's close to the nodes still, because we are in that, whenever we have eclipses, the luminaries are within certain degrees of the nodes. And it depends. And for a lunar eclipse, it can be 18 degrees. For a solar eclipse, it has to be within 12 degrees. But here it's very close. It's within, I mean, it's not the eclipse, but still
4 degrees. In 4 degrees.
Yeah, it's happening. So it's going to be a total eclipse probably happening up ahead. Such transformation. Well, we do have that. What else kind of sings out? I think to myself, if I look at the nodes, because the nodes are on their way out too. In January, we're going to shift. The 18-month nodal will go from our relationships, which are Aries and Libra. But right now, we're still at the very first decan, first 10 degrees of those signs, meaning it's all about our relationship with others and our relationship with ourselves. So Mars and Venus, the other personal planets, are our leaders. They're guiding us. And here we have Venus in Scorpio. It's saying it matters. I don't care. You folks, we either get to the real deep stuff where we can exchange our resources and psychologically and metaphysically with the occult I'm not fooling around anymore. And it's and it's at our midheaven.
Yeah, Venus is shining up there. Definitely.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Mars is right on our descendant saying, yes, we're going to take care of our needs. We're going to listen to people.
Right. Don't be afraid of the other. Get out there and meet the other. Right. It's time to discuss things and talk about things.
Ah, yes.
Right.
Yes. That each one of
Be
us.
brave in your connections.
And I was noticing with, let me think here. Oh, with that lunar eclipse at 26 degrees, I didn't put down the Sabian, but and I don't have it in my fingertips.
I do.
Oh, good. But what it means is that essentially we all, individuals, all take action and accept that, realize that's part of the dynamics. So there are going to be many voices, we're all experiencing this collectively, and people will be activating their directions, but together it makes the petri dish, it makes that function.
I have the Sabian symbol for this.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's O2 Cancer, which is O3. A man leads a shaggy deer through ice canyons, pioneering, going your own way, striking out.
So that is supported also with that eclipse that I was just talking about at 26 Pisces. So this again is a matter of action, and it makes good sense because Mars was out of bounds. It's not out of bounds here. Ceres is still out of bounds, which it will be, but Mars is back.
This Sabian symbol also speaks to whatever the terrain is, like going through an ice canyon. It's like, well, whatever you're going through, go through it.
Wow.
Right?
And isn't that Venus in Scorpio? It could be an ice canyon. It's that part. But ice reflects, ice. Have you ever been to an ice cave like there in Seattle going up to Mount Rainier? We used to go to the ice caves every year. My mother's a Cancer and she loved caves. So we would trek up to the ice caves, 9 years old, across the meadows, beautiful terrain. Wow. And it changed. Now it's not allowed. I guess they're melting too much, but you'd get in because she wanted to go a little further, which I wasn't so sure about. I stood there watching her as she'd enter more, but I was enough that I could see the blue light just shimmering through. Much like what we have.
I'm dying to know if she has a planet on that degree.
Well, she's a Cancer, and of course she had Pluto in Cancer. So you have to remember it was that generation. Yeah. And yeah, and I don't know, but she loved water things. Because at that time, too, on television in the 50s, there was a lot, it wasn't Jacques Cousteau, but they had underwater movies where people were in their little outfits. And so, as a little kids, when we had the TV, we'd be watching under the water. A lot of water things.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea kind of stuff.
Kind of like, yeah. It was, the fish and all of that.
Those are the 60s, though.
Yeah, same difference. So here we have quite a bit of water, don't we? We have Neptune in the last 2 degrees. It's retrograde, but next March, I think it goes into Aries. So we're just getting that last hit of its 14 years. We've got Earth, which is not in water, but gone back to its Earth last degree of Capricorn. But we have Venus that is in water of Scorpio.
Yeah. Intuition.
Deep intuition. And the moon in Cancer. There you go.
Which gets back to when we started out, we talked about how the moon is the gut reaction, and so is water.
Yes.
It's like, what are you feeling about the thing deeply? How does it move you? Or, right? What does your gut tell you to do?
It isn't a Thales point. It is an exact square to Neptune. And it is, or is it not? Oh, no, Sue, forget it. Forget Thales. Passaruni, Mercury retrograde. Yeah. But nevertheless, Venus and the moon are really, and they love each other. Venus and, on a in this relationship, I think they really care about what the other one says. One is looking at values and psychologically what's deep, and the moon is saying, well, that supports and that gives me reason why I feel safe or unsafe. So how are we going to change our values? And if our resources aren't working, it's because it's not supporting what I need.
And so you have Mars going out to meet the other in that seventh house, or saying what you just said about the moon and Venus. That's what we're supposed to carry with us as we take action, Mars, into meeting other people. Here's what I've learned, you know.
Yeah, and Mars
Keeping
is
in mind
dynamic.
what you need to learn, and also keeping in mind what the other person is going through as well. It's having
Yeah,
that
and
openness.
Mars is central here. Thank you for reminding me about that, because look at, not only is it on the descendant, listening to people, but by doing so, it is really in a trine to, it's got that flow with Saturn that's looking at the whole in Pisces of what is fundamental. And yet it is in an action-oriented business with Neptune and Ceres and the nodes that's going, well, how are we going to be one?
Isn't that
look
the
at
big
the
question?
Yeah, it is.
All
It
the time.
really is. Yeah. It's not a simple affair. It's really a crisis in consciousness, isn't it? But it's gestation time. And again, we're in the eclipse season. We can't emphasize that enough. It's like knowing that you're going to go see a mega epic movie that you haven't read the books about, or they haven't a book yet. And you discover this great arena of a vista of depth, emotional, because water is emotional. You know, it really pulls together our storyline. You know, we can reframe our lives, and that's what eclipses want. They want us to reshift. It can take time, though. I remember, John, you and I went to the Great Eclipse in 2017 with Amanda, and it really changed a lot of us. We became our names. Like, I added Rose and Amanda added Moon. Do you ever use Luke?
I do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So it is an interesting process to, when we have these dynamics between the moon that sees everything in flux. It's like it takes time for that flower to open, and depending on the years, water, so many different issues, or if a big tree grew up and now shades it where it used to get light, all these different elements, just to give an analogy. Whereas Saturn is our last planet that we can see, and really is cycling endings and beginnings. You know, it's like that Sith that says reset and end things. It's a huge dynamic of evolution going forward.
It'd be interesting if we had the next new moon chart. Do we have that?
No, I don't. Let's see. That would be in, well, it is the eclipse, isn't it? I wish we did. And it's going to be early. I think it's 2 degrees Libra, which interestingly, I think that's right. And let me look this up real quick. I guess I'll just close out our things. Just to mention to people that I was with Liz Machette, the Astrology Star Sisters, Talk Over Tea. You can find that on my playlist. Just go to Talk Cosmos. It's very interesting. They are in conjunction. We're going to start a dwarf planet series. And of course, we have all these different playlists highlighted here with our global currents about the Democratic Convention that was just, and then the Republican one. And you can go right back to the one about the U.S. return with Chiron, besides other things that we're doing. So, and then it'll be you and me. So looking at that, it is going to be on October 2nd, but it's 10 degrees Libra, 4 minutes. So that's just leaving the first decan going into the second one. So it's going to be quite Aquarian. Right after Libra is the
0
second.
degrees Libra. I have 0 degrees around there, I guess.
No. It's
What
the
degree?
full moon. It's going to be 10 degrees.
Okay.
10 degrees and 4 minutes, according to Llewellyn. Meaning 10 degrees in October 2nd. Well, we won't be we're in this eclipse season, actually even starting now. And it's all about relationships, which is deep. It's a deep cycle.
It is.
To realize, how do I act? And not just for myself, but for others. And that, in a sense, gives me purpose.
That's a good sum up of that chart.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're here with me, John.
Well, thank you.
It's exciting.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
thank you, Sue.
It is. Remember, next week is going to be the archetypal symbols that we're going to look at the new moon, how you can get that seed going. But right now, we're just stating. We are trying to gather information, and I hope this has helped you on your journey of personalization through these amazing times. Thank you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.